Hey all, here's your reminder video for Monday, April 6th. In case you get stuck or just want a few reminders before you attempt today's review assignment. First of all, remember that standard form is this, which basically means that the equation has the x term over here, followed by the y term, and then the equal sign, and then the constant over here on the right side. That's the basics. It just goes x term, y term, equal sign, number constant. Now, some of the fine details is that this leading term, the x term, is not really supposed to be negative. Alright, so right here, 3x plus y equals 18. This is a good example of standard form. You're not really supposed to have this be like a negative 3x. And that's only for the leading term. That's only for the x term, okay? It's not really supposed to be negative. Now, an even bigger rule, okay, probably a little bit more of a strict rule, at least as far as I'm concerned, I don't know, whatever, is that you're really not supposed to have fractions. So these numbers in front of the x and y, and also including the number constant on the other side, are not supposed to be fractions or decimals. They're just supposed to be nice integers. So if this was like a 1/3, or if this was like 5 halves and this was 18 over 7, no good. Like you'd have to kind of fix that so that there's no fractions. Reminder about the slope formula in case you have 2 points. Reminder that this is slope-intercept form. Essentially you could think of slope-intercept form as the form where y is all by itself. So this is an example of an equation in slope-intercept form where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. So here the slope is 3 and the y-intercept is -2. And this is point-slope form, where this value right here would be your slope, of course, again, m is always slope, and this x1 value and this y1 value would be from any point on the line. So this is basically an example of an equation in point-slope form. And actually I didn't just say this, where here the slope would be 2/3, and one of the points would be -5, comma, +1, because there's negatives built into this formula. So again, your point would be -5, comma, 1, because this pretty much says x minus a -5. I'll get down to that, I guess, when we're doing some examples. So here's a pretty good example to get us rolling. Write in standard form the equation of the line with a slope of 2, but it contains this point. Well, just because they want the equation in standard form, you can't start in standard form. Okay, you definitely want to finish in standard form, but the method I'm going to show here is by using point slope form. So I'm going to be using, well, I shouldn't need to show you this again, but point slope form, okay? Because the ingredients for point slope form I was literally given for free, a point and the slope. So we have y minus -2, sorry for the bad handwriting, equals m, which is 2, they gave that to me for free, times x minus 4. So y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. But again, they want standard form, so I have to kind of keep this going. I'm going to say that's plus, and I'm going to distribute. All right. Ouch. That's all right. So distributing the 2, this is basically y plus 2. So remember, standard form, right? You want the x term on the left side. So we're going to subtract 2x, all right, from both sides. Okay, and this number can't be over here on the left side if it's going to be in standard form. So I'm going to subtract 2 also to both sides. And so that's not going to be there anymore. That's not there anymore. And I got a negative 2x now on the left. I'm still going to have the y term, the positive y term. And again, since I'm subtracting 2 from both sides, this negative 8 is going to become a negative 10. So I'm getting there. But remember how I said you're really not supposed to have a leading x term that's negative, and here we have it. So how am I going to fix that? Well, remember, you're allowed to multiply both sides of an equation by whatever you want, as long as you multiply both sides. You know, essentially you could say you're multiplying the entire equation by, in this case I'm going to say I'm multiplying by negative 1. I can do that. And so that's going to make it positive 2x, but it's going to make it a minus y, and over here it's going to make it a positive 10. And that's good standard form. Write in slope-intercept form the equation line that passes through these 2 points. Okay, I don't need to start in slope-intercept form. I can use point slope, but I don't have a slope, but I can take these and get me slope. So m is going to equal y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. So that's going to be negative 6 over 3, which is clean division, and it gets me negative 2. So now I can use point slope form. And you know, in general, you can use, you know, you have your slope and you have 2 points to choose from. You could choose either one, but as I always say in class, I always say in class that you literally just got done using these 2 coordinates as, like, you just got done calling these 2 coordinates x1 and y1 over here. So why not just keep on using this as your x1, y1? So y minus y1 equals my m, which is negative 2. I just got done finding that, times x minus x1. Okay, now again, they want slope-intercept form, so I got to keep this going. Y minus 5, and I'm going to distribute negative 2x, and then, so negative 2 times x, I just did. Negative 2 times negative 1, that's positive 2. And now I have to move this away from the left side, because I only want y on the left side. So I'm going to add 5 to both sides, and that gets y all by itself. And I can only add the 5 to the 2 and get 7. So that's my final answer, considering it's now in slope-intercept form. A couple more examples, I suppose. Slope-intercept form of the equation that contains that point and is parallel to that. Okay, so if I'm going to write an equation, I need a point. If I already have a point, the only other thing I need is what? I have a point. What else do I need? I need the slope. Well, when they say that it's parallel to this other equation, that's what they're doing to kind of like give you the slope. So remember, parallel means same slope. So my equation for my line is going to have the same slope as this. So the slope of this is 2. because y equals mx plus b. So there we go. It's right there in front of my face. That's what I'm going to use for m. So I can do the same whole routine of y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And again, they want slope-intercept form, so I'm going to do the whole thing again of distributing the two. And then moving this away from that side, canceling it out. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides and end up with y equals 2x. So what's negative 6 plus 1? And there we go. Now the other reminder is, because this problem is very, 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 very similar, except it's got perpendicular. So they give us a point for free. We just need the slope. Well, perpendicular also pertains to slope. Perpendicular means that, like, if two lines were perpendicular to each other, the slopes would be opposites and reciprocals at the same time. So whatever slope this line has, we're going to use a opposite reciprocal. Now the plot twist here, the little bit of a bad news, is that we can't really tell what the slope of this line is until we actually put this in slope-intercept form. So getting y by itself. So those are the steps, moving the 3x term to the other side. Okay, these two do not combine as like terms, so we just leave them separate as negative 3x plus 8. Then we divide both sides by 2, and we got to divide both. Remember, we got to divide both of these terms by 2. Negative 3 divided by 2, that's not clean division, nor does that fraction reduce. So it's just left as negative 3 over 2x, and then 8 divided by 2 is 4. So now we can tell that this slope is negative 3 over 2, right? So our slope, considering we're going to have something perpendicular, we're going to do the opposite and reciprocal, or as I sometimes call, refliprical. So the slope we're going to use, I've already said that. So the slope we're going to use is 2/3. So now, after all this work, now we have a point, and now we have a slope, negative 3 comma 5 and 2/3. So once again, negative 3 comma 5, right? Negative 3 comma 5 and 2/3. So my x-coordinate was negative 3, is that right? So this would really say x plus 3. So again, what form did they want? Of course, they want slope-intercept form. So y minus 5, nothing to do there yet, and then distributing the 2/3. Now remember, this is pretty much x plus 3. So 2/3 times x is 2/3 x, and then 2/3 times positive 3 would be positive 2. Alright, now to finish putting this in slope-intercept form, we have to add 5 to both sides. So to get y by itself, of course. Okay, y equals 2. Oh my gosh, I knew something felt weird about that. I forgot the x, plus 7. Alright, and so that would be the final answer as far as what these directions say. But I want to kind of, call an audible, football terminology, and what if they wanted this to wind up in standard form? Okay, Remember, standard form, you need to have the x term and the y term on the left side. So we'd have to move this term to the other side by subtraction. So we would have minus 2/3 x plus y on the left, and still on the right side we would have a 7. But remember, true standard form, the leading term is not really supposed to be negative, and even bigger than that, we're not supposed to have fractions at all. Okay? So what you would have to do here is multiply both sides by something that would result in no more fractions. So what could you multiply both sides by so that you would end up with, no more fractions at all, as well as this would not be negative anymore? Well, the simplest answer is to multiply both sides by 3. That would get the job done. So multiplying both sides, actually I tell a lie. -3, I forgot. Not only do we want the fraction to clear, but we don't want that to be negative anymore. So -3, you dummy. Alright, so that would be so remember, we're multiplying -3 to everything, the whole equation basically. So this final answer, again, this is all assuming in pretend land that this would have said standard form instead. So the final answer here for standard form would have been what? Positive 2x, and then -3 times positive y would be -3y. See, I can write pretty good with a mouse if I slow it way down. I spoke too soon, maybe. And then over on the right side, -3 times 7 would be -21. All right.